Okay, you guys, so this is 10.1 populations and samples, 7th grade statistics and probability, standard number 1. Your objective is to be able to use samples to gain information about a population. A lot of vocabulary, but we need to understand this to be able to know what to do in this lesson. So the first one is not on your book, but I want you to know what statistics is, because there is, that's part of our first standard there. So statistics is basically a science or practice where we collect, organize, analyze, interpret, and also present data. And especially we use it to make inferences. Okay. And then probability is basically the chance of something happening. So we'll get into probability a little bit more later. A sample is basically a portion of the population being studied. A population is an entire group or objects, individuals, or events being gathered. So for example, we said the population will be like the whole school, right? So a sample is a group of kids or students I'm gonna grab randomly to ask a question. Okay, so that population will be the whole entire school. Sample will be just a group of kids from that school that I will ask a question to. A random sample is basically a sample in which person, object, or event has an equal chance of being picked or selected, and then this is gonna help us to get a more good representation of the whole population. So for instance, if I wanted to see if the certain school, if kids like sports, so a good example will be to use, when they're exiting or entering the school, pick random kids as they come in, and that will be a random sample. You get like 2 kids from every classroom randomly. And by example will be like asking the basketball team if like sports, right? So that's a very specific group. It's not accurately representing the whole school because they are athletes, so therefore they're gonna like sports. Okay, so those are your vocabulary words. So let me just go over biases that you can experience, and that's actually gonna be inaccurate. Statistics that it's gonna give us is not gonna give us a good representation of the whole population, versus what to do to get a good representation of the whole population or good data. So for instance, the way the words are used, the way that we ask a question or that is phrased, that's going to lead to a certain response from the people that we're asking. So for example, what do you prefer, as pets, sweet and quiet cats or annoying and loud dogs? So the way that you're questioning this, you're swaying people to answer a certain way, saying, well, okay, cats are better because they're sweet and quiet, and dogs are annoying and loud. Okay, so that will be a bias question. And so that's a question. And then for bias samples, again, specific groups that I pick. So again, asking athletes if they like sports. That will not represent the whole school because they are athletes, therefore they like sports. So those are inaccurate statistics. And then what to do to get accurate statistics. Select random samples that have a sufficient size. Okay, so if I want to see the school like sports, I'm not gonna just pick 5 kids if the school has like 1,000 students, right? So maybe like, I don't know, 100 will be like a good representation of the school that is pretty big. So that will be a random sample, and again, a sufficient size that represent the whole population. And then ask participation unbiased questions, and they have to be open-ended. So for instance, the best question to ask, if I really wanted to see what people prefer as pets, I would say what Emily prefer as pet. And that will be the best question. Now, if I want to narrow it down to where I want to see the difference between people preferring cats over dogs or dogs over cats, then I can ask a question, why they prefer cats or dogs, but I don't have to add any adjectives or anything there that's going to ask a biased question. Okay, so let me give you a few questions, and you're going to tell me if it's biased, no bias, and then I'll ask you other questions as well. God bless you. Bye-bye.